How do you install Turbo's mini split? This is an 18,000 BTU, 1.5 ton single zone mini split. It's heating and cooling, so it's a heat pump, and it uses A2L refrigerants. This is the first mini split I'll be installing that uses A2L refrigerants, and it uses R32. Today, I'm going to provide you with a step-by-step guide on how to install a mini split, and this is a Turbo mini split. You're watching Taddy Digest. I'm Tad. Let's get started. This is where our wire is, where we're going to mount our disconnect for our power for the mini split we're installing, and we're going to install the outdoor unit centered right here in the middle in the back of this building. This will be the disconnect. We'll have conduit which holds the wire that powers the unit, and that'll wire into the outdoor unit, and the mini split will set about right here. And inside we're going to have a wall mount air handler in the center on the other side of this wall, and our line sets are going to come out on the right hand side of that mini split. So if we look up, we know our line sets, if the unit is right here centered and it's about this wide, then our line sets are going to come down right here. So I want my unit to be right here so that my copper connections line up with the indoor unit. So outdoor unit will set right here on a pad, and then indoor unit is going to be on the other side of the wall. Let's go see, and let's center it up. So here's the back of the building. This is the front of the building, and we are going to mount that wall mount air handler in the center, 8 foot up. I don't want it any more than 8 foot up because I don't want the customer or homeowner to have to stand on anything taller than a 6 foot ladder, because that would just be more inconvenient for them to actually maintenance the equipment, which is just to clean the filter. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out the distance between this wall, and then we'll know what center is. We'll mark that with a marker 8 foot up. You can use a tape measure, or you can use a laser tool to measure the distance. I'm going to use the BOSCH GLM50, and this is what I like to use. So what do we see here? We see 19 foot. Wow, 19 foot and 7/8. So we're going to say 9 foot 6 inches, because 9.5 would be half of 19. So we know now that 9 foot 6 inches is centered. That's 9 foot 6 inches right there. So this right here is centered. All right, now I'm going to go from here. That right there is 9 foot 11 inches. And this is 8 foot 11 inches. I think I'm going to do about 9 foot 8 inches. That way I think that would look better. Yeah, that's pretty much centered with the top of the wall. I like that. So we're going to mount the top of the unit at 9 foot 8 inches, and this right here is centered. So I'll just take a marker and I'll mark this, which I can just, there's a screw right here, so I'll just use that as a reference point. So we got our center right here. Let's go ahead and mount the mounting plate. Let's go over the contents of the box. So we got a template right here. This cardboard has a template, so you know where to cut your hole out for your line sets and your drain. If you're not experienced, definitely use the template. This will help you to not make a huge mistake. You got to make sure the drain has enough fall. Here's the drain tube. Here's the power cable that connects from the outdoor to the indoor unit. Here's the batteries for the remote controller. Remote controller looks pretty nice. I like it. And then we've got our screws for mounting. Then we've got a user manual. So that's really nice, and it displays the models right on the front. So if you got the 9K 115 volt or 230, if you got the 12K 115 volt or 230, if you got the 18K or the 24K, which come 230 volt. We've got the 18K 230 volt. Now we got to take this screw loose so that we can remove this back plate. We're going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to go ahead and mount that back plate on the wall. Got the screw out, and lift the back plate off. Get ready to screw it into the wall. I'm going to be using these deck screws, 1.5 inches with a star bit. Got that in my drill. I'm going to grab at least 5 of these to mount that unit. Also, got to have a torpedo level because I like to slightly angle it up this way so the water drains out easier. I've got the mounting plate where I want it. Now I'm going to sink one of the screws in the middle. But I'm not going to sink it all the way in. And the reason I don't want it sunk all the way in is because I'm going to put my level right here on top. And then I'm going to take and move the mounting bracket to see when it's level. Now you can see the mounting plate's mounted, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 deck screws. If you put the level on it, you are going to be able to see that, once I get it on there, that the bubble is to the left, and that's because the right side is lower than the left. That's what we want. Now, the next thing you want to do before you drill your hole is I like to take a look and see what it looks like in place. So lean the back of the unit down, it'll snap into place, and we can take a look at it and see, hey, what does it look like? Also, you can check it with the level again. Ooh, that looks good. It does look like it's leaning just a little bit to the right, but I like it. Now, we can drill our hole with our hole saw. Now, for drilling the hole through the wall to make sure you're as accurate as possible, you can use a template, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So you can see, this is the mounting bracket, this is the front view, and there's where the hole would have to be drilled, right? So you can take a razor knife, and you can cut out that piece of cardboard, or you can take and just drill it out. And then we can take the template, and you gotta have a marker. I've got a marker right here in my pocket. The template right here. See this? And we can line it up where it's supposed to be. And then you can just take and circle this. Woo. Look at that. Beautiful. Now you got your hole. Also, you want to make sure you use a stud finder because you might not know what's in the wall. I know what's in the wall, and I know I'm not going to hit any wires, and this is where I want it, but you want to use a stud finder before you drill your hole to make sure there's no wires. Now there's our hole. My bit is not long enough to go all the way through, so I'm going to take my 8-foot ladder outside. Also, you want to make sure that once you go into the other side, you want to make sure that it's straight or angled down when you drill. I like to angle down. Let's go outside. Here's our hole. It is centered in between these 2 ribs. And you want that because it's easier to put your line hide cover on. If you want to make sure that you come out in between the 2 ribs centered, you want to spot the hole before you use a hole saw kit. Get you a spotter bit. It could be 1/4 inch, could be smaller, could be a little bit larger, but you spot the hole before you drill your hole with your hole saw. This is our pad. We're going to set our outdoor unit on that pad. I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting this hole. I'm not going to use my hole saw. I'm just going to use my snips because it's going to be much easier to do that. And then we'll want to put our sleeve in the wall. And our sleeve will just keep our line sets from getting cut by the metal. All right, looks like I need to cut out the bottom part just a little bit. I'll get that cut out and then I'll show you. Here's my hole. Here's my sleeve. This is a 3-inch piece of pipe, and you can see it's very thin walled. That way it's easy to work with. I actually cut it with my Milwaukee hacksaw, and then the reason I cut it is because if you take and you drill a 3-inch hole, then your PVC is probably going to need to be a little bit smaller than the hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this inside, and then make sure it goes all the way through. And you want to make sure it doesn't stick out too much. All right, there it is. There's the sleeve. Let's set the outdoor unit and go ahead and put the line sets through the hole. Here's the box for the outdoor unit. Here's the outdoor unit. Looks like we got the line sets. Looks like a cable right there as well. That's nice. Looks pretty good. This outdoor unit weighs about 80 pounds. Indoor unit weighs about 30. Now, before we can mount the indoor wall mount air handler, we need to take the line sets and bend them. Don't be afraid. There's usually a spring installed, so you're not going to kink the lines. And our drain and line sets are going to go straight out the wall. So this is what it's going to look like. You may want to take some black tape or some wire ties and wire tie this. That way you don't have to hold it. For me, I'm not going to have a problem because I'm using the mighty bracket. Now that I'm ready to mount the wall mount air handler, I'm going to install this installation support tool for mini splits. This is called the mighty bracket. I use this to make my job easier. If you're a single person installing a mini split, get a mighty bracket. It's made by Rector Seal. Super easy to install. All we're going to do is take and put the hook in the mount bracket. There it is. It's in place. Now I took the wall mount air handler off of the wall so I can show you how easy it would be for you to go ahead and wire up the indoor unit so that whenever you push the line sets and the drain through the sleeve, you can go ahead and push the wire that connects to the outdoor unit through the sleeve. So I want to show you this. You see how this is labeled? L2 is white, L1 is black, and then S is red, green and yellow is ground. This is all pre-labeled for you so that you know where the wires go. So here we go. I'm going to take this and slide it right into the back of the unit. And then you can see where it comes out. And then look at that. We're going to go ahead and wire it up. Awesome. It's easier to wire the unit up if you take the front cover off. So you'll take and pop this up. You got a lever over here. Push that lever to the right. All right, like this. Like that. Boop. Comes out, and then take this one and bring it back to the left a little bit. See, like this. And then you'll be able to take it out. See that? Now we can take, this is the receiver right here, so we're just going to take this plug and take that plug loose. So, all right. Now we can see our electrical connections. It's easier to get to them. Now let's take and loosen them up and wire it. I love the fact that they have these spades already crimped onto the end of the wires. Just makes wiring up much easier. L1, L2, S, and ground. Black, white, red, and green. Doesn't get much easier than that. And then we're going to insert this piece in here. And this will hold that wire in place. Ooh. Like that right there. And then we'll put the screw in it. There we go. Now we can put the covers back on, and then we don't have to get back inside here whenever we are installing the outdoor section. All right, here's the first cover, and it just slides into place like that. Pretty easy to install. Now we're going to put this cover back in place. That's ready. Now we're going to plug this in like this, and then there's a white piece that goes right here, and then this piece those in place. Like that. Now, screw this in, and then we will mount the wall mount air handler. Set this on the mighty bracket, and then I'm gonna turn it up like this. That's fine. And then I'm gonna make sure this wire is not tangled up, and feed it through the hole, out and down. Now you can see why I like the mighty bracket so much. If I wasn't working by myself, then I wouldn't really need it, but it just makes things so much easier. Alright, line sets. And this is where you may need to tape or wire tie everything together. Just makes it easier. Also, make sure you don't push the sleeve through the wall. That also makes the job not so fun. I'm actually going to pull the sleeve back. And then push it up there. Now, lift it up, set it in place, make sure your sleeve's in place, and then we can go ahead and take the mighty bracket loose. Now, let's take the cover off for the electrical connections and the cover off for the copper connections. Now, connect the drain tube, which is pretty simple. Just push it in, and that's really tight. I like to use PVC, but this will work. Then roll the line sets out, bend this copper down. All right, now we'll take these caps off. When you take the caps off, you should hear pressure. If you don't, then there's a problem. These units come shipped from the factory with nitrogen. Hear the air? Look at that. And there we go. Both caps are off. There was nitrogen, and that's a good sign. Now we're going to take our covers off of our copper flares, and you're going to check your flares. You're going to look inside, you're going to make sure it fills it up. You're going to make sure that the walls of the flare are not thin, they're not cracked, and then if they're not, then you're going to go ahead and screw these flare fittings on to your copper connections for your indoor wall mount air handler. This is the 1/4 inch line right here, and that one's connected and hand tight, and this is the 1/2 inch. I'm going to go ahead and connect it. Make sure you don't cross thread it. Now I've got these hand tight. I'm going to use my crescent wrenches. If you've got a digital torque wrench, that's even better, because inside the manual there are values for torquing each size copper so that you can actually torque it to spec, which would be better than me just using crescent wrenches. However, I am going to use a nitrogen pressure test, and I'm going to soak test these connections just to make sure that I don't have any leaks. So I will not have leaks when I leave. I put a couple wire ties to keep everything together, and anytime it's around 10 foot or less than 10 foot, I always do a loop. That way I can reduce noise and vibration. So I'm just going to leave one loop, and then I'm just going to connect those flare connections. Connecting the last one down here, but I want to show you, check this out. See that flare? That actually looks really good, and all the flares have looked really nice, so I am impressed about that. Now I'm just going to take this last connector, you can see right here, this is how you want to connect it. You just put the flare right there in the place it's supposed to go. Boop. And it should go on there pretty easily. And then once you get it on there, use your digital torque wrench or just a crescent wrench. And tighten it up until it starts, when it starts turning the copper, that's when you know it's tight. Don't want to tighten it up too much. Before I move forward, I'm going to use a 1/4-inch zip screw. I'm going to take and drill through each foot like this. And I am going to drop a 2-inch screw to hold the unit in place. I don't need it swinging around whenever I'm trying to connect the line sets. Alright, let me get those other two in. You will need a 1/4-inch to 5/16 adapter. If you don't have one, go check out the link in the description. I'm going to take and attach this here. And before we open the valves, we want to make sure that we pressure test and we vacuum. These are not pre-vacuum line sets. Read the manual, you'll find out that they're not. Now, if you want to use the low side gauge, it only goes up to 350. So if you pressure test and you want to pressure test more than 350, use the high side gauge and the red hose. I'm not going to go over 350. I'm going to go around 300. I'm going to use my blue hose right here and connect it to the adapter, which connects to the service valve. And then my yellow hose is going to connect to my nitrogen tank, and it's going to connect to my regulator. And you're going to want to get some soap bubbles. If you don't have any, link in the description for some of those. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up my yellow and my blue. And then I'm going to open my nitrogen tank. And you're going to see this blue gauge here go up. Open the nitrogen tank. Oh, this is open. Whoops. There's 200 psi. There's almost 300. All right, we got about 315. See that? 315. Now, some manufacturers actually recommend that you use upwards of 590 and 600. I recommend that as well. I think that's a good idea to make sure you don't have any leaks, especially since we're using this A2L refrigerant. We want to make sure we minimize the chance of having any leaks. So it's on 315. We can let it set and hold that for at least 30 minutes. Make sure we maintain that pressure. If it drops, it could be leaking. I'm going to go ahead and get some soap, and I'm going to soap test these connections before we put the vacuum pump on. Soap testing the connections. Both of them. If you see bubbles, that means there's a leak. Make sure there's no leaks. All right, let me soap test the ones coming out of the wall. Soap test your fittings. Number one cause for mini split failures is installation. Just like most residential equipment, 80% of units that are installed or 90% are not installed correctly. So make sure that you put nitrogen in the unit, you pressure test, and then you just tighten it up and then retest. Now I'm going to let the nitrogen out since we don't have any leaks, and I'm going to hook up the vacuum pump. Since this is an A2L refrigerant, I'm using a NAVAC DC vacuum pump. I'm not using an AC powered vacuum pump because I want it to be an approved pump for the use with A2L refrigerants. And we're using a DC pump. This is NAVAC. I'll put the link in the description to the pump, so if you guys need a DC pump for working with these A2L refrigerants, then you can go get one. I like this one. It's battery powered, so I don't have to have an extension cord, so that's really nice. So I'm going to let out the nitrogen, and I'm going to go ahead and hook up the pump. Now we're going to turn on the vacuum pump. Then I'm going to start the wiring process. Vacuum pump's on. Open up the ballast. If you don't know how to use a vacuum pump, I've got a video on how to use this vacuum pump. I'll put it down below so you can learn more. Okay, it's opened up. Got the micron gauge on. Now we can close the ballast and watch it pull down. While I'm waiting on the vacuum pump, I'm going to mount the disconnect. So I'm going to mount the disconnect right here, and I'll probably knock out one of these knockouts. This is a 1/2 inch knockout, and then it's 3/4 and 1 inch. I'm only going to knock out the center, so it's 1/2 inch. I'll remove the plug, and then remove this cover piece. And then I also, just makes it easier, I like to bend out the edges of this 60 amp disconnect so I can take this cover off. So now, it's going to go right there. And I'm going to knock this one out. When you don't have a hammer, use anything as a hammer. That's my theory, and it works. There we go. Make sure the wire's not hot. I didn't do that earlier. Don't ask me what happened. Using some 5/16 screws to mount the disconnect box. I don't really like where it's at, but we don't have much choice. Make sure it's level. There's one screw. There's 2 screws. 3. And then put one more. That's not going anywhere. And there's our wire. Now, pump is almost done. I think we're almost ready to open the valves. We'll go ahead and do that and get back to wiring. 274 microns, 273 microns. Looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and shut the gauges and turn off the pump. Now we use our Allen tools to open up the service valves. Always open the larger valve first. Make sure you open both valves, and that's what it looks like when you open the valve up all the way. See the top valve is open, bottom valve is almost open. Now it's open. This equipment includes a power cable, and this power cable is used to power the outdoor unit. It also includes a communication cable or a signal cable, which we already wired to the indoor unit, which connects to the outdoor unit. So I brought 12-2 wire, and I brought conduit, and that's what I was going to use. I didn't think they would include a power cable. But before you use this power cable, make sure that it's going to pass local codes or an inspection. If you're having an inspection done, your inspector may not pass this because this is like SJ cord, and you may need to put it in some conduit to be able to pass inspection. I'm going to go ahead and wire it into the disconnect and wire it into the unit. This is the wire from the indoor unit right here, and this is going to go up and through one of these holes like this. And once you get it all the way through there, then we'll be able to reach the terminals like this. And then this wire right here, one side has got these types of connectors. This will probably go to the disconnect. This will probably go to the actual unit. So I'm going to put this in here because these are ring terminals. So there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and run this into the disconnect. Now I'm going to take and knock out the 1/2 inch connector on the bottom of the disconnect. Why did I use a crescent wrench as a hammer? I don't know. Now I'm going to put this 1/2 inch connector in that knockout. I really think I should use conduit, but I am just going to run this up in here, and I'm going to make sure it's not touching anything though. Now make sure you check the power before you start stripping the wires that come to the disconnect. Otherwise you will be in huge trouble. Like me, using some multifunctional wire strippers that are really nice. I just got these. Link in the description. Go check it out. Line goes right there. Now I need to strip both these wires. Oh. Those wires are stripped. We're ready to loosen up the terminals, get a flathead screwdriver. I'll connect the ground wires first. Boop. That ground wire. And then that's for the line. Now I'm going to hook up the ground wire for the load. I'm going to hook this one upside down so it'll give me more room. It's pretty cool if they include the power cable. I like that. However, I just don't know if this is going to pass your codes. The load. And this is for 240 volt, by the way. So, at least they've got these connectors on the ends. That way it makes a good strong connection. Alright, that is... Oh. Alright. That is the load. Pull on it, make sure it's tight. Now, to connect the line. Line. There we go. Alright, disconnect is wired. Man, that is so weird. I've never used a cord like this for my power cable. I just would be afraid if this was in an area where you know, somebody had a weed eater and they came around here, or, you know, somebody stepped on it the right way. But we'll take and run it with the line. Well, no, we can't do that because I got a line hide cover I'm putting on this. So I'm probably going to put some clamps. Clamp, clamp, clamp. I'll squeeze it around the wire. These are 3/4 clamps. Okay, so everything is wired up. The power wire just had L1, L2, which is black and white, and then it had a ground. And then, of course, the indoor had a L1, L2, which is black and white, and then an S, which is red, and then a ground. So this is how it's wired up. I'm going to go ahead and turn the power on and then check the disconnect for voltage. 20 amp double pole breaker. It's on. Meter on volts AC. Let's check the incoming power, which is the line. 240 volts. Okay, let's go ahead and plug in the disconnect. Disconnect is plugged in. Beautiful. Meter still on volts AC. We're going to take and check L1 and L2. 240 volts. Let's go turn the unit on. This is the standing pressure. It's 275 psig. I took the cover off the back of the remote controller, inserted the batteries, and now we're ready for cool air. Push the on button, and I really don't want the Celsius. I'm used to Fahrenheit, so if I long press the cool and heat button more than 3 seconds, it should go to Fahrenheit. That's better. So it's in the cool mode. Change the temperature. We can see it on the front. That's nice. I think I'm just going to put it on 70. It's hard to see, but inside the vanes are moving. And then I can swing the other vane that's in the very front up and down. I think that's a good spot right there. Push it again to stop it. I like this remote controller. This is nice. One thing I definitely like about the remote controller is that there are no symbols for the mode of operation. There are names. Cool, off, heat, instead of having a sun or a snowflake. I don't like symbols. I like the words instead of the symbols. Really nice. Now let's check temperature inside. Let's check the temperature split. Let's check the pressures. Let's see how long it takes to heat and cool this space. It's 93 degrees outside. I'm using a dual induct psychrometer to measure the temperature. Inside, it's probably not much better. It is exactly 2:30. I'm going to time and see how long it takes to cool this space down. Right now, it's 88 degrees. It's 88 degrees in here. It's 2:30. Let's check back in about 15 minutes, maybe 30. Now, you want to make sure that you seal up this hole. I am definitely sealing up this hole. I do not want any heat from outside coming in. Well, I'm making a mess. I was using window and door gun foam. This is low expansion foam. Now I'm using the foam cleaner. Use the foam cleaner, that way I can reuse the spray gun. It's draining. Need to make sure I put a piece of PVC on that and run it on down. Suction line temperature. I got the clamp hooked up. Just want to see what that suction line temperature is. It can't be 70, I know better than that. There it goes, there's an accurate reading. 57. So suction line temperature is 57. Low side pressure is 140. Looks pretty good. It's definitely cold. I think that's much colder than 57. $56. All right, let's go check the supplier temperature. It's been about 12 minutes, 77 degrees. So we've dropped the temperature 10 degrees inside the building in about 10 minutes. Let's measure the supply air temperature, and then I'll talk about the size. Be careful when you're using this. Do not stick it in the blower wheel. I've done that before, and I've had other people that have done that before, and they've broken the wheel. Easy to do, but you don't want to do it. It's what, 78 degrees, so this should be at least 58. This is 400 square foot, and it's got a vaulted ceiling. It's standard insulation, so there's no foam insulation. It's just standard insulation, R19, R30. And there's windows facing the sun, plus a double door. So I could have went with a 12,000 BTU single zone, a 1-ton model, but I would have been cutting it close. So I went with the next size up. And the reason that I'm not afraid that I oversized the unit is because this will vary its capacity. Now this 18,000 BTU, you can use it for spaces 900 to 1,000 square foot, depending on the insulation. Do a load calculation. I use Quick Model 3D. It's very easy. And this is just a square building. Supply air temperature is 54 degrees. We were measuring the suction line temperature and it was 55, so it's reflective. Now I'm going to adjust the fan speed, push the speed button, and you can turn it to turbo. Wow, you can hear that. Now what I recommend is you keep it on auto. That is the best selection for the fan speed. I think I'm going to put it on about 72. There's an app you can use, and you can scan this QR code, download the app, and you can use this app to control the unit. Warranty and customer support. Turbo provides a 5-year limited warranty for Turbo products from the date of purchase. So if you want to learn more about the warranty or customer service, then check out the manual. Go to support@turbo.com. As far as maintenance is super simple. You take the cover, you lift it up, you take the 2 filters out, you wash them. Then every year, annually, you go outside to the drain where it terminates, and you take a shop vac, you put it on the end of the drain, you clear out the drain once a year. I cut a piece of 3/4 PVC so that now it's draining away from the wall. Only thing I don't like about this install is the copper rolled up, but it'll be okay. Now to install the line hide cover. Now to install the line set cover. I get all my line set covers from permacover.com, and they've got a ton of materials and a ton of different colors, and this color is going to match the color of the metal. That way it blends in, covers up the line sets, and makes the job look better and more professional. Look at that. Beautiful. Looks so much better. If you need a line set cover that's durable, made of metal, and many options for colors and materials, check out permacover.com and use discount code TADDY5 to get 5% off of your order. If you want to learn more about this permacover, line set cover, and how to install it, I've got a video, and I'll put the link to that video here, and I'll put it down in the description so you can go click that video and learn how to install this line set cover. If you need a mini split and you want a discount, use discount code TADDYDIGEST to get 10% off of your mini split. Looks good. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. If you did learn something, let me know what it was down in the comments. If you got a question, questions can lead to new content. So please ask your question. If you don't have a question, that's okay. Let me know who you are and let me know where you're from. If you haven't seen my video on the solar powered mini split that I just installed, go check it out, link in the description. If you need help with mini split sizing, go check out my training videos, my members only courses. I've got a video on there for mini split sizing basics, so go check that out. If you need help with your project, you can contact me through email by being a level 1 member. You can have access to my members only courses by being a level 3 member. And you can actually have my help personally on the phone by becoming a level 4 member. And if you need help with an extensive project, then level 5 or level 6 is for you. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and smash that bell, ding, so you know what I'm doing. You've been watching Taddy Digest. I'm Tad, and I'll keep you cool if you let me.